and we get this gem of dialogue.
You need to chill yourself, all right?
Chill myself? What is that, stoner talk?
The Vampire Diaries Season 1, Episode 1 is a fantastic hour of television. I would even dare to say that it is a perfect pilot. I've done a couple of retrospectives on like YA media from my adolescence on the channel recently, and when I was researching for my last video on The Secret Circle, I was like, let me watch an episode of The Vampire Diaries to compare, to contrast, and what a pleasant surprise. It had an edge. It had a bite to it. Unlike so much of the YA media I've revisited as an adult, The Vampire Diaries didn't suck the life out of me. It didn't feel like a blatant cash grab, like hopping on a trend, a series of tropes and stock characters strung together and churned out for teen audiences. In fact, it reminded me that The Vampire Diaries wasn't the nail in the coffin of the supernatural romance trend. It was only the beginning. With a single episode, I was hooked, compelled to watch more. You might be asking, Ellen, what is it that makes this one episode of TV from 16 years ago so great? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. A deep dive into the pilot that launched a cinematic universe. 3 shows, a total of 331 episodes, and a less than satisfactory witchy sister. Obviously, we're going to follow the standard L literacy formula today. A bit of cultural context, some production fun facts, plot summary and analysis, and a look back at the impact. I love using my film degree and vast knowledge of media to treat an episode of teen TV with the same gravity that I would like an auteur film. That's what academia is for. Life is what you make it. This is what dreams are made of.
Sing to me, Paolo.
Hi, I'm Ellen, and you're watching Illiteracy. As I mentioned in the intro, The Vampire Diaries was one of the OGs of the supernatural romance craze. It premiered on Thursday, the 10th of September 2009. Barely a year had gone by since the premiere of the other 2 vampire heavy hitters, or should I say, heavy biters? No, HBO's True Blood and Twilight. Spotting the burgeoning vampire craze, execs at the CW went, me, I want one. The first Vampire Diaries book by L.J. Smith was published way back in 1991 by the CW's old friend, Alloy Entertainment. We talked a little about her in the last video. The series were re-released with new covers, very reminiscent of the Twilight covers. One even has an apple on it. Interesting. I think that they are like a major downgrade from the 90s like campy covers, but they were a great success nonetheless. And all of a sudden, this 17-year-old book became a New York Times bestseller. How long has it been 17? Alloy Entertainment already worked with the CW on an adaptation of Gossip Girl, so in early 2009, the CW greenlit a Vampire Diaries adaptation. Just a little reminder, Twilight only premiered in November of 2008, and True Blood had only premiered a couple months before that in September. So they wasted no time. The Vampire Diaries pilot is full of tropes that we know and love, but unlike media that comes out a little later in the supernatural romance craze, the tropes don't feel tired or forced. Part of this is because of the timing, because it came out quite early in the craze, but it's also down to the strength of its writers. The Vampire Diaries creators Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec are responsible for the Scream franchise, the slasher horror films that playfully subvert and satirize generic tropes. Williamson also wrote Dawson's Creek, the teen soap opera, and The Vampire Diaries very much sits between teen soap drama and horror. This blend of genres was really important to the CW and to its success. In researching this video, I read parts of I Was Feeling Epic, an oral history of the Vampire Diaries by Samantha Highfill, and I found it really interesting how the CW producers and the showrunners discussed how the Vampire Diaries fit into their programming. In 2009, the YA soaps Gossip Girl and 90210 would air at the start of the week, and then at the end of the week were the supernatural shows Smallville and the aptly named Supernatural. The Vampire Diaries, as a supernatural YA soap, acted as a bridge between those two distinct genres. Don Ostroff, the president of the CW from 2006 to 2009, called The Vampire Diaries the glue that solidified the CW. Not only was The Vampire Diaries important to the supernatural romance genre, it was pivotal in structuring the scheduling of an entire TV network. Fans of both the YA soaps and the supernatural dramas could find something to love in The Vampire Diaries. So it really was the perfect bridge. And it was also less adult than HBO's True Blood, but more gory and horror-esque than Twilight. When I say that this pilot is a masterclass in storytelling, I am being 100% serious. I genuinely think it is written really well, and I feel like it is both fun for me and fun for you, and also maybe educational to people who want to learn how to dissect media or analyze films, etc., that you can literally apply your skill set to any piece of media. Film analysis and critical thinking isn't just reserved for quote unquote high art. We can use it for an episode of The Vampire Diaries. I did not plan on making a video about the pilot of The Vampire Diaries, but when I was watching it for the Secret Circle research, I was immediately like, I need to take notes. You know me and my notes. And that's on one episode of TV. That's a lot. The pilot script has a lot of great show, don't tell. It does a great job of delivering information without it feeling too expository or clunky, and it establishes characters and character dynamics, personalities, motivations, etc. in just a few lines of dialogue, which is great writing. So without further ado, let's sink our teeth into the Vampire Diaries pilot. We open on a misty forest. A voiceover comes in.
Hiding in the shadows, alone in the world. Until now, I am a vampire.
This voiceover is interesting. It really positions the male vampire as the main character of the series, which is not the case. These lines of dialogue are quite expository. They are very much this is a show about vampires, and there's a reason for that. The voiceover was not originally in the pilot, but test audiences were confused by the supernatural elements in the show, so it was added in post to introduce the vampire element right off the bat. We see a dark, misty road. A young couple driving along, chit-chatting. For those of you who watched my Secret Circle video, this intro might feel a little familiar. I love how this couple is described in the script. A young couple sits in the front seat. Darren, 24, has that cute, I'm probably gonna die soon look. Beside him is Brooke, 24, pretty, smart-faced. Has that, I'll probably live longer than my boyfriend look. This feels like a line lifted out of the Scream script, which makes sense. Same writers, and I love it. Thick fog engulfs the car. All of a sudden, a dark figure appears in the mist. The couple can't swerve in time, and they've hit him. Dunk, 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 rolls over the car, lies dead still in the road. Little do they know, they're not the killers. They're being hunted by one. Boom, 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 a series of quick cuts. A close-up of a fanged bite. The man is gone, disappeared, nowhere to be seen. Brooke tentatively exits the car, calls his name, looks around, thud! His dead body lands on the hood of the car. She's running for her life. But it's futile. She's swooped off her feet and into the air by an unseen predator, and we cut to the title sequence. In a word, amazing. The cold open is suspenseful, it's atmospheric, it feels like a scene from a slasher film, and it lets us know that we are watching a horror show. Because yes, The Vampire Diaries is a teen soap full of love triangles and melodrama, but it has its great horror moments too. Now, this opening does bring about some questions as to the supernatural powers of the vampires in this universe, i.e. that they can create fog, that they can fly. But that is a discussion point that we will return to later. Another voiceover, the same man from the beginning.
But I had no choice. I have to know her.
In a single line of dialogue, we know his raison d'être, his reason for being. We know that he is in Mystic Falls, the town this is set in, for a woman. And he is watching the sunrise through the trees. A visual metaphor, maybe, for the beginning of something. The dawn of something. Then he does jump off the roof, so we know that he's a supernatural being. Could he be the same one from the intro that killed people? We don't know yet. It does look a little goofy but whatever. I think this voiceover is like an entry in his journal, his diary, if you will. But he's not the only diary that we hear from. Elena, played by Nina Dobrev, who, fun fact, left the show after 6 seasons because despite being the main character and playing multiple characters, she was paid less than her male co-stars. Yep, from Elena's diary entry, we learn that her parents are recently dead, but she is going to put on a brave face and pretend that everything is fine. And this attitude will be contrasted to her younger brother, Jeremy, whose grief is a lot louder. He acts out a lot more, but right off the bat, we've established that Elena is someone who typically puts others before her, and she will pretend to be okay for the sake of others around her.
I will no longer be the sad little girl who lost her parents.
We meet Elena's younger brother Jeremy in the kitchen, and the first thing he does is go and grab a cup of coffee that Elena had poured for herself. No word of thank you, no acknowledgement, but again, Elena puts others before herself. She doesn't even mention it. Elena and Jeremy's dynamic is set up in one interaction, in 2 lines of dialogue.
You okay?
Don't start.
Immediately, we learn that Elena is a caring, but maybe overbearing older sister, and that her moody younger brother is very tired of it. Jeremy was the first person cast as well, and Jeremy is supposed to be 15. Elena is 17, and they're living with Aunt Jenna. And again, with a couple lines of dialogue, we learn Aunt Jenna is in college. She's a very young aunt. I think the character originally was supposed to be 29, but then they cast Sarah Canning, who was 21, only like 2 years older than Nina Dobrev, so I think they like aged her down. Jenna is frazzled, overwhelmed, anxious, and it shows her inexperience in the role.
Toast. I can make toast. It's your first day of school and I'm totally unprepared.
She is very clearly, unequipped for the task, a task that has probably been thrust upon her at very short and unexpected notice. She offers the kids lunch money and only Jeremy takes it, because again, he will kind of take advantage of other people's generosity in his grief, and he is acting out. We're driving through Mystic Falls, Virginia, the town where this show is set. In the book, it was originally called Fells Church, but I think the writers wanted to move away from the religious tones. We don't see it in the first episode. It kind of develops as the show goes on, but Mystic Falls is very much like a hotbed of supernatural activity. And in this way, it's very similar to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is set at like the Hellmouth. Both shows build an entire world and mythology around a town. Allegedly, Mystic Falls is supernatural because during the Civil War, so much blood was spilt on the ground that like seeped in and created something supernatural. Allegedly. The person driving us around Mystic Falls is Elena's best friend, Bonnie.
Rams is telling me I'm psychic. Our ancestors were from Salem, which isn't all that I know.
This introduction is not the most subtle, but it's a nice bit of foreshadowing. We also get a nice little kind of cultural reference here to really situate it in time. While they're talking, boom, a bird hits the windshield. When I was watching this, I genuinely jumped. I was not expecting it, and I did jump and scream. And then I was rewatching it with my friend, and she also jumped. Great suspense, great little horror thrill. It's not just a cheap jump scare because it serves a purpose. Elena's quite shaken afterwards because she has some trauma with cars.
I can't be freaked out by cars for the rest of my life.
Show don't tell. We know she has car trauma. We know her parents are dead. And for the attentive viewers, we're thinking 1 + 1, 2. The Vampire Diaries score is so like nostalgic to me. It's very minimal. It's kind of mysterious. We see a mysterious shaded boy in a leather jacket, a tracking shot behind him. When the girls get to school, there is a bit of a non-PC jump scare.
Look at the shower curtain on Kelly Beach. She looks so hot. Can I still say tranny miss?
Yeah, that was a wild card. I wasn't expecting that. And there's no other like instances like this. It feels very odd. Anyway, some more characters are introduced. Matt, Elena's ex-boyfriend, who's very clearly not over her. Caroline, the like bubbly blonde queen bee, who is polite, but a kind of pageant queen sort of politeness. It seems a bit forced, a bit fake. Jeremy is hanging out in the stoner area and he's given some illicit Tic Tacs to a girl named Vicky. and he is pining after Vicky, but Vicky's boyfriend comes and kisses her, and her boyfriend is Tyler Lockwood. In the book, Tyler's last name was Smallwood, but I understand why they changed that one. We see the mysterious shaded man again, but this whole time we've only been seeing him from a distance or from the back. We haven't yet seen his face, and he has to supernaturally manipulate, which in this universe is called compel, the receptionist because he has no immunization records. He's unvaccinated. How topical. Once again, we see Elena's like overbearing kind of maternal instinct. She barges into the boys' room and confronts Jeremy, and we get this gem of dialogue.
You need to chill yourself, all right?
Chill myself? What is that, stoner talk?
Upon exiting, who does she bump into? Mysterious shaded man, Stefan Salvatore. Why a vampire would need a bathroom, not quite sure. But it's a cute little meet cute anyway. Then obviously during class they're exchanging some sneaky little glances, and we can see Matt pining in the background, and then even in this shot of Bonnie texting, he's like out of focus but in the bathroom trying to peek at her phone to see what she's saying. The phones are very much of their time. So is the text speech. I don't know why adult showrunners think that teens text like this.
Laugh out loud.
When school is done, Elena can really let her teen angst out. She spends her afternoon journaling in a graveyard, leaning against a statue and staring at her parents' tombstone.
When someone asks, "How are you?" they really don't want an answer.
A creepy crow lands, a heavy mist rolls in, and within 30 seconds, she's enshrouded in fog. We get a little point of view shot. Is Elena also being hunted? Maybe, because we see another silhouette of a mysterious man. She runs away, and who does she bump into for the second time that day? Stefan. These red herrings, because, well, spoiler alert, the mysterious man who's attacking people is not Stefan, but I think that these red herrings are done really well. I like them. We see his fancy ring, which is a similar ring to what we saw in the intro on The Hunter.
We have history together.
You have history together. A double entendre. And Stefan knows before Elena that she's hurt herself. Why? Because he can smell the blood. Do you know in like YA books when a guy gets like angry or horny or something and they're like, his eyes darkened? Well, the Vampire Diaries literalize that with their interpretation of the vampire, and I really like the special effects. I also think they aged really well. Vicky, Jeremy's crush, is Matt's sister, and Matt is talking to his buddy Tyler.
Please tell me you're not hooking up with my sister. I'm not hooking up with your sister. You're such a dick.
And this little interaction establishes each character's personality. One is, more golden retriever, pining boyfriend. The other, a womanizer, potentially. Someone that you don't want your sister dating. We get an insight into their dynamic, how well they know each other, and it's also a little playful banter. Great writing. Great writing. Jeremy lost his V card to Vicky over the summer, and they were doing a bunch of drugs. Jeremy is very much trying to be like the nice guy.
He only wants you for your ass.
Yeah? What do you want me for?
She ate with that one, I fear. Caroline gives us a little bit of exposition about the new guy, but it feels natural because, she's gossiping, and these kind of like character introduction exposition drops can often feel very clunky, but I think this works. Aunt Jenna's dialogue also conveys her like inexperience with parenting. She's just like newly settling into the role, but like maybe struggling to establish some boundaries or authority.
I'm meeting Bonnie the girl. Okay, fine. Wait, I got this. Don't stay out late. It's a school night.
Well done, Aunt Jenna.
And I think a lesser show would say something like, I'm new to this whole like parenting thing. Stefan arrives at Elena's house out of the blue, which is a little creepy. Okay, because apparently she dropped her journal in the graveyard. I don't know if this is true or if he stole it.
You keep a journal.
Yeah, if I don't write it down, I forget it. Memories are too important.
And the performative male award goes to Stefan Salvatore. We get a little bit of vampire lore, vampire world building with this interaction because Stefan, since he is not explicitly invited in, cannot cross the threshold into the Gilbert house. And it's fun to see what aspects of the vampire genre the show is going to incorporate because obviously There is a huge history of vampire media, representation, and tropes, etc. So with each new vampire media, we have to learn how are they going to engage with this lore. Elena and Stefan go to the local hangout spot, the Mystic Grill. And like I said in my Secret Circle video, every like YA show has to have like an after-school hangout spot where every character congregates outside of school. Anyways, when Elena and Stefan enter, this really reminds me of the scene in Twilight when Bella and Edward are like walking across the car park and he's wearing his shades and his little jacket. We learn Stefan is also an orphan, but he does have family.
Any siblings?
None that I talk to.
Great line of dialogue. It establishes the family dynamic. What siblings does he have? Why is he not talking to them? Interesting. Great needle drop. Kids by MGMT. Perfect 2000s YA media song. Thank you. Stefan says that he lives with his uncle, but in reality, he is the uncle.
Please, Uncle Stefan.
And yet he looks so young. How interesting. And his uncle says,
I know that you can't change what you are.
what you are. Not who you are, what you are. What an interesting choice of words. And then we get another great bit of visual storytelling because Stefan opens his wardrobe and it's full of diaries. His diaries, going back decades, centuries even. And he stares longingly at a picture of Catherine, who looks exactly like Elena. So now we know in the intro when he said, I have to know her, we know exactly who he's talking about. In the background of this scene, we have a cover, like an emo rock cover of Running Up That Hill. I actually quite like it. Anyway, we get a scene of the kids in class. And I love this because I feel like so many teen shows will only have the characters like maybe talking to each other in the hall, but it never shows them in class or like doing homework or anything. And maybe it's boring. But I like seeing kids in class, man. But the history teacher, Mr. Tanner, bit of an asshole. He comments to Bonnie, cute becomes dumb in an instant, Miss Bennett, which feels like misogyny. And then he asks Matt,
Would you like to take this opportunity to overcome your embedded jock stereotype?
It's okay, Mr. Tanner. I'm cool with it.
I laughed at that. I thought that was funny. In the Vampire Diaries, I feel like the humor and just like the overall tone is quite well balanced. Mr. Tanner takes a sharp turn in his little banter.
I was willing to be lenient last year for obvious reasons, Elena. But the personal excuses ended with summer break.
On the headstone, we see that Elena's parents died in May. It's been 4 months. They died at the end of May. So like when he's like, oh, I was lenient last year, she was only grieving for like a month before school ended. So how long were you lenient for? Also, he's not calling out the other students like this. And it just feels really mean and rude. And if that were me, I would be humiliated. Stefan knows the answer. It's almost like he was there. Everybody decides to celebrate the start of the school year with a big party in the forest. We get another glimpse of the vampire lore here, where we see that Stefan has super hearing. He's able to hone in on Elena's conversation with Bonnie. Bonnie describes Stefan as having a romance novel stare. Stefan stared deep into her eyes, piercing her very soul. This felt self-aware, it felt funny, and it feels like it could be a line that's like lifted right out of the original novel. Bonnie was joking in the car about being a psychic, but it seems like she really is.
When I touched you, I saw a crow. What? A crow. It was fog.
Stefan does that typical vampire thing where someone's like looking away and then they look back and they've arrived. He says,
I did it again, didn't I?
yeah, this is playful. It's a bit of chemistry. I do believe that like Elena and Stefan actually like each other. I think the actors have great chemistry, which is pivotal, which is vital to the success of any romance. And for this scene, I was really taking note. I was like, I really enjoy the color grading in the show. I really like the set design. I think this like the bridge with the waterfall looks really beautiful. I also really like the Gilbert house and Stefan's room. It looks great. I think it looks lived in. Our suspicions are confirmed. We learn that Elena's parents did die in a car accident and she has survivor's guilt because she was in the car and is the only one who survived. Then we zip on over to Gilbert number 2, Jeremy, who's pining after Vicky, who walks into the forest with Tyler, and Tyler then tries to SA her, and then he slut shames her.
Wow. Vicky Donovan says no. That's a first.
An attempted SA in the pilot. This also happened in the fellow CW Alloy Entertainment collab, Gossip Girl. This is one of my few gripes with this episode. It just feels like lazy writing. I find it a bit jarring, especially because in Gossip Girl and in the Vampire Diaries, both of the male characters who do this go on to be main characters who we're supposed to sympathize with and root for. It feels very much like it's just setting up Tyler as the bad guy so Jeremy can look more like the nice guy or the better option for Vicky, even though she doesn't see it that way. She says that he's worse.
You're worse. You want to talk to me, get to know me.
You want to talk, get to know me. Okay, it is a little cringe, but I also do feel like it's something that an angsty teenager would say. When Elena and Stefan are chatting on the bridge, I don't know if he gets a little horned up or what, but his eyes go dark. But maybe he's just thirsty, because then he says, I'm gonna go get us a drink. Cut to, Vicky is in the forest alone and she gets attacked. Again, another great herring. Stefan walking off saying, I'm gonna get a drink. Vicky's attacked. Jeremy is storming off in a huff into the forest, and Elena's following him, and he trips over Vicky's body. But she's still alive. She's blood all over her neck. Almost like a vampire attacked her. In the Vampire Diaries, never. And with Bonnie's psychic ability, we get a little bit of foreboding.
I have this feeling that it's just the beginning.
This is just the beginning. And she's right. It is just the beginning. The show has just started. It's the pilot. Stefan returns home and a crow flies in. And we've seen this crow before. It flew into Bonnie's windshield. It was in the graveyard. And we are introduced to our third main player in the series and the second vampire, Damon.
Hello, brother.
This little cut to ad break, fantastic cliffhanger. And it's such a simple line, but it's so memorable. I know that if I had been watching this when it was airing, I would have been kicking and screaming through the ads. We very quickly see that Stefan is the kind of more straight-laced, morally superior brother, whereas Damon is kind of more playful, less serious, but also more dangerous. I think Ian Somerhalder was excellently cast. I don't think he's overdoing it at all. I think this could very easily become very corny kind of dialogue, but I think he does quite well with it. And fun fact, when I had strep throat, which then turned into pink eye because apparently they are caused by the same bacteria, my eyes got so bloodshot that they looked so blue. And I sent a selfie to my friend. She said that I looked like Damon.
Hello, brother.
Anyway, this conversation establishes some brotherly banter, but it's also quite antagonistic. Damon will be antagonizing and pushing all of Stefan's buttons at every possible opportunity. And we also learn that Stefan has not fed on anything bigger than a squirrel. He's a vegetarian vampire. Again, very similar to Edward Cullen. There is actually no way to talk about any supernatural romance without talking about the big T. T is in Troy? No. T is in Twilight. The showrunners and fans of the Vampire Diaries tend to dismiss any similarities between the two because the Vampire Diaries came out in 1991, long before Miss Stephanie Meyer put pen to paper to recount her vampire sex dream. There is no denying that the premise is remarkably similar. We have an old, vegetarian, morally superior vampire with coiffed brown hair who falls in love with a brown-eyed brunette, a girl who's capital S special in some way, not like the other girls. Anyways, back to Damon. Damon annoys Stefan so much that Stefan attacks him. The kind of special effects that are used here, where the vampires fly, and we saw it in the beginning when Stefan leapt off the roof, and also it was implied in the opening sequence when the woman is carried off into the air. They actually do away with the notion that the vampires can fly because I learned when the production moved from Vancouver, where the pilot was shot, to Atlanta, there was no wire stunt setup in Atlanta, so it would have been too expensive for them to continue doing this kind of special effects. So that's why after this episode, we see the vampires just kind of doing like super speed and just kind of like flashing in and out of frame. And in this interaction, we get a playful little nod to Damon's powers.
Crow's a bit much, don't you think?
Wait do you see what I can do with the fog?
The crow that Damon can either control or turn into or whatever, and his ability to create fog are also done away with because the creator said that the animal handling with the crow was too difficult and too expensive, and also the fog was kind of a production nightmare and they thought it looked a little bit corny. But I think it kind of works in the pilot because they make like these playful references to Damon's crow and fog making ability, which I think the like self-awareness kind of campiness makes that horror aspect work better. It shows that the show isn't taking itself too seriously, which I enjoy. After Stefan attacks Damon, Damon says,
I give it 6 Michelin style, but was pleasantly surprised. Very good with the whole face thing.
Another little funny, meta, playful, self-aware reference to the more like campy or like corny aspects of the show. And I feel like that is really reminiscent of Scream and the like horror satire that Williamson and Pleck did there. We get another lore drop. The rings that Stefan and Damon wear protect them from the sun. So now we know that in this universe, vampires will burn in the sun. Caroline and Bonnie have a drunken post-party convo. Caroline reveals that she is always trying so hard and feels like Elena doesn't have to try at all to get boys' attention, to make people like her or anything.
It's not a competition, Caroline. Yeah, it is.
And I feel like this kind of jealousy, this sense of competition, really does capture teen female friendships. And then she locks eyes with Damon. Dangerous. Vicky is laying in the hospital bed with Matt by her side, and we already know that Matt is a little bit suspicious of Stefan. Vicky manages to get a single word out. While Elena's doing her nighttime journal entry, Stefan appears at the house, and the episode ends with Elena inviting Stefan into her home. She has let the vampire into her home. There's a dual kind of sense here of the romance and the tension, but also the danger that could arise from this. It is such a great first episode. It establishes so many characters and character relationships. It's setting up lore and intrigue for the world building. It lays the foundation for so many plot points. And I think it does the job of a pilot really well. And the Vampire Diaries pilot ended up being the CW's biggest ever premiere. And the Vampire Diaries ended up being the most watched show on the CW until it was overtaken by Arrow, and it was an enormous success. It had 8 seasons, it had 2 spin-offs, it had another imitation-esque kind of thing. And in terms of its airtime, it ended up outliving the 2 other vampire medias, True Blood and the Twilight Saga. And to be clear, when I'm talking about the great quality of writing and everything, I am just talking about this first episode and the foundation that it lays for the first season. I've never finished the Vampire Diaries, but I know that the writing does take a little bit of a dip. It does get a little crazy. One of the reasons I felt compelled to do this video was because I feel like the Vampire Diaries, at least in its first season, genuinely respects its audience and also its genre, the supernatural romance, the teen soap, the horror. And as trends like supernatural romance or YA dystopia or romantasy went on, we saw a lot of publishers and producers rushing to make media that fit those genres and cashing in on the interest and the hype, but not caring about the actual quality of the media they were producing. And it feels like that's just really disrespectful to its audiences, and it just really feels like it belittles the interests and intelligence of the audiences who are predominantly teen girls and young women. And that's something that I felt with The Secret Circle, which was my last video, and with Divergent, which was the video before that. I feel like they were very much just cashing in on trends. So I just wanted to take a minute to celebrate media that was well written, well made, and respects its audience. And I feel like with this video as well, I'm continuing a little experimentation with format, where I think with a lot of film and media analysis that I do, it's not so beat by beat kind of plot dissection. It's more like a general analysis, maybe a few specific examples, but I wanted to try something new. So here we are. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, leave a comment, a like, a subscribe, all those kind of things if you're interested. This video has no sponsors, so if you would like to help support the channel, you can check out the Patreon, which is linked in the description. And speaking of patrons, thank you very much to my patrons for supporting the channel, and a special shout out to Kelly T, Paula Boone, Eric Danielson, Cecilia Diarville, and my Sharpay Evans tier patrons. Bye!